Today on the show, we are going to be discussing one of the most ugly trends, I would say, in my opinion, in the whole United States over the past 5 years or so. And that, of course, is online gambling. I hope you guys enjoy the show. We are going to get right into it today. I'm your host, Sal Assante, and this is the We the Patriots podcast. Here we go. Sports betting. I'm sure that you cannot go 5 minutes watching anything, whether you're talking about a streaming service, regular TV, whether you are on YouTube. Probably 1 in every 3 ads is a gambling service nowadays, and it is, in my opinion, extremely hard to watch. Now, the reason that there are so many ads, of course, is that they are extremely, extremely successful. It is really pervasive, especially in the young men in the country to be betting online, whether that is online casinos or sports betting, and it is crazy amounts of numbers. But one of the turning points in the country was about 5 years ago when the Supreme Court actually went back on a decision and said that online gambling basically is legal and that the federal system cannot go against allowing states to allow online gambling in their state. And since then, you've seen, I want to say something like 40 something states have now allowed online sports gambling and online gambling in general. And in my opinion, it's a disaster. And we're going to talk about that. So just looking at the numbers of gambling, something like 22% of American adults have an active account. If you go to males, it's actually going to be something closer to 40% to 50%. It's a crazy number. Talking about 50 to 60 million people. With that being said, you talked about men between 18 and 50. Almost half of them have gambling accounts, and a good percentage of those actually have a gambling addiction. And it's scary. I'm sure that you guys have had friends, if you are really male or female, you probably have friends that have gotten into sports gambling and gambling in general. It is really a disturbing thing to watch, people throwing their paychecks away at something that is against them. Money's always with the house. You could be extremely good at sports betting and be one of the lucky ones, but in general, you're not making money. The way that these companies make money is by you losing. The sportsbook agencies are profiting something like over $500 billion. I'm sorry, over $500 billion in profits in just 2025, I believe. So with looking at that, it's insane to look at, but that's an industry that's being run on a profit basis. With that being said, if they're profiting, we as people are losing. Having that much money around and not being invested into, something like stocks, something like hard metals, homes, all of this money is getting swallowed up by corporations, and that is not a great sign for the future of our country. And so why do I think it's such a bad thing? Well, I kind of just highlighted the major reason, and that's the fact that young males and young people in general are really struggling, I think, to find a purpose in life and have their dollars work for them, right? We used to have, the older generation saying, just invest in the S&P 500, put a little bit over time, compounding growth, and you are going to be able to purchase a home. Well, when you look at it, it takes a lot of that in order to even get to a standpoint where that down payment is achievable, right? I know I talked about home prices and just affording life probably 4 or 5 episodes back, but when you really dive into it, it is a tough sell to a kid or someone who's just getting into the workforce that, 30% of their paycheck has to be invested probably for 5 to 10 years just for them to have that down payment, not even to be earning enough money. And instead, I think what a lot of people are resorting to is gambling, going out on a whim and hoping that your next one's going to hit. It's going to make you hit big. A lot of people gambling their rent money on sports where it is just absurd, especially the sporting industry that we have in the United States today. It is, with being so interconnected with gambling, it's a lot of fishiness. There's the integrity of the game, in my opinion, has gone down. A lot of people in the sports commentary world actually like the fact that sports gambling has been legalized, because with it being legalized, these sport books can pay attention to who's making the bets. You have to register with your social security number, all that stuff. and they can follow it and they can make sure that, players aren't on the take, that all this is happening. But at the end of the day, I think that it's gotten much worse when you're looking at the fact that, players not performing are going to receive death threats. Players that are not reaching whatever numbers they have to do are seeing those numbers. Their family members are telling them about it. Their friends are saying, oh, you haven't hit your 10 points. You went under. What the hell? This puts a different kind of pressure on people, and it could be very destructive, I think, not just to the people that are doing the gambling, not just the people that are involved with the sports books, but to the sport and entertainment industry itself. One of the scarier things that has come up is not just that, online gambling is occurring, whether you're talking about casino style or sports gambling, which I think has affected the games, but look at something that I'm sure all of you are receiving a lot of ads for nowadays, and that's something like Kalshi. This is something, basically, they call it, I believe, a prediction market. And the whole point of this is that you can bet on basically anything, and that's insane. You can bet on elections, you can bet on the weather, you could bet on a policy going through, you could bet on someone dying, you could bet on anything, and it is absurd, especially when you're talking about getting into politics. And the reason that I say that is that politics, I think, as we all know, over the past, probably since I could pay attention, which would be around Obama's time and Trump won, politics does not seem like a fair game. It seems very rigged, whether you have the media in your pocket, whether you have the amount of donations you need, whether you have bad stories getting quashed. Whatever it is does not seem like a fair game. And if it is not a fair game, then a betting market on politics is not a fair game. Imagine that people with much better poll numbers than you are in on the Kalshi market on whether Trump was to be elected in 2024 or not. Whether, Mamdani was going to win in New York was a huge one. All of this stuff is so pervasive and it is so lined with fraud possibilities, in my opinion, that it is really damaging to the American mindset, to be honest with you. One of the biggest ways that Americans for generations have built up wealth is by investing in assets. Now, what that has become is gambling. And with removing that incentive to, hold your money in an asset, let it grow over time, don't treat it as a gamble, even though everyone that sells a stock, sells a security is going to tell you that you have the possibility of losing money. You can be well-researched. You're supposed to be able to be well-researched, and with that, make better decisions with your money in order to lead to financial success down the road. When it comes to gambling, you don't really have that option. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, with the profits that are coming to these corporations, the house is always winning, whether you like it or not. Or even if you're the one that's making money off of them, somebody else is getting whacked and is losing their entire savings, possibly their retirement, their home. It can go endlessly, and gambling addiction is across the country. So, in my opinion, what we should go back to as a nation is online gambling being completely illegal. I do not think that you should be allowed. I do not think that gambling is inherently a terrible thing, although I do think that it ruins marriages, it ruins people's psyche. But having that access on this little brick that you can have, and just to destroy your life in one night, really, but over time, killing your life, killing your savings, killing your ability to start a family and successfully live throughout life without going poor, going broke. I think that should be made illegal again. It was a much better world when people had to go behind the scenes in order to gamble on sports, where if you wanted to gamble on something like that, you had to go to, the horse tracks, horse racing tracks. You had to go to Atlantic City. You had to go to Vegas. And I think that's the way that it should be. I do not think that we should have this access to gambling that we have now, because it is clearly affecting our country. Whether you want to talk about the advertisements, advertisements are always gruesome, but again, when it's every third ad that you see is going to be gambling, it's hurting. And when all of the, I am a sports guy, and when you are seeing every single sport fall into this madness of catering to these sports companies or sports book companies because they are giving so much money in sponsorship, well, a lot of times what that's going to lead to is just fraud inside of your sport, inside of your organization. And I think that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at the decay of the American sports behemoth that it is. And it'll take time. It'll take time to break this down, but at the end of the day, we're going to be looking at, baseball helmets with the DraftKings logo on it, football jerseys with FanDuel spread across the chest, basketball uniforms just getting pasted with all sorts of gambling stuff. It's going down that path, and it's going down that path very quickly. So I just think that, totally opinion based, but when you're looking at the numbers, the amount of profit, the amount of people that have these online gambling accounts, it cannot be a good thing. And at the end of the day, I think that it's really, really hurting our country, and we should get rid of it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm going crazy, but I cannot stand the sports gambling stuff. I can't stand online gambling in general, and especially I cannot stand these prediction markets. I hope they go away. I hope somebody revisits this law and says that this is not good for our country. But let me know what you think. I would love to hear it, and I hope to see you all of you guys next week. I love you all. Thanks for sticking with me here at We the Patriots. I'm your host, Sal Assante. You have a wonderful week. Peace out.
I want to be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream, and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.